Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. In today's video, I have three really delicious slow cooker or crock pot recipes to share with you. I believe they're all new to us. So that should be new to you, at least for my channel. So I hope that you enjoy them. Let's get into the first recipe.
All right, so first we're gonna make some beef stroganoff in the slow cooker. I'm not doing the recipe exactly. I'm not browning my meat in the pan first. I'm not doing mushrooms. I'm not doing a few things. So I will have the original recipe linked down below for you. And you're supposed to use a boneless chuck roast. I had a bone in. So we're just adapting, but I'm preparing this actually the night before. I am putting everything in the slow cooker. That way on, this was a Saturday night. Sunday mornings we leave at about 6 a.m. And I wanted to be able to just take it out of the fridge and put it in my crock pot before we left for church. So that's what I did. So I have in here some beef broth, some Dijon mustard, some Worcestershire sauce, some thyme, some paprika, and some minced garlic, and we're going to mix it all together. Like I said, I will have the original recipe linked down below for you so you can see the amounts for the amount of meat that you have, and you can also do the things that I chose to omit in mine if you want, but the way I did it ended up coming out honestly really, really good. There's a few more adaptations that I make later on. So now I've got my chuck roast in my slow cooker, and I'm just going to salt it really, really well. And then I'm also going to add in some dried minced onion because didn't feel like dicing up any onion, which I think is a theme in this week's video. And so once I've got all of that seasoned, we're going to just pour our liquid right on top. And then also something that's not in the recipe, I put on about 3 tablespoons of butter just because I feel like, I don't know, that's a good idea. So for me, I covered this, popped this in the refrigerator till morning. Obviously, you don't need to do that if you're making it right when you're going to do it. But I pulled it out, popped it in my slow cooker here, and I'm going to put that on low for about 8 hours, or you could do it on high for like 4 hours. You see, 5:54 a.m. And now later that afternoon, a little after 2 o'clock, our roast was done. So mine was a bone-in roast, so I'm going to take out the meat, take out the bone, and I'm also going to shred it and take off any like chunks of fat. So over here, still in the crock pot though, I've got my little, what is going to be our gravy, and I'm just using this little mesh skimmer thing. I don't really know the name of this tool, but I'm skimming off just any chunks that's really not meat. It's just like some fat and just other things, you know, that came off of the meat while it was cooking. And then I'm going to whisk in about 2 or 3 tablespoons of flour until it thickens. This is not a part of the recipe either, but based on, I believe there was comments saying that the gravy wasn't thick enough, so I just chose to do this and it worked out really well. And just want to whisk it until you don't have any clumps and until it's a good amount of thickness. So you can just be the judge of that. And then I added in about 1/4 cup of sour cream. And then I also decided to add in, the sour cream is part of the recipe. I also decided to add in about 2 or 3 tablespoons of cream cheese, or not tablespoons, 2 or 3 ounces of cream cheese. And I'm just going to let that kind of sit in there so it can soften for a bit. And then we'll go ahead and work it in. Now all of this is happening. I was boiling some water to cook up some egg noodles. And then I was also steaming up some green beans to go on the side. If you enjoy slow cooker recipes, please give this video a thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoy it. Also, if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. So once my gravy was all done, I poured in our cooked egg noodles, and then we're also going to add in our shredded beef and just toss everything together. And this came out so good, and I just served this alongside some steamed up green beans, and it was absolutely delicious. Thankfully for us, we had lots of leftovers and we ate every bit of it with a smile on our face.
All right, so for tonight's dinner, we're gonna have some ranch chicken tacos. I wrote down this idea. I'm sure I've seen a lot of people make it, but it was Tiffany from Large Family Love had shared it. I actually didn't write down the recipe. I just wrote down like what it was, and you added ranch seasoning and taco seasoning. So I don't know exactly how she did it, but sometimes I don't write down recipes when I get ideas. I just write down the idea itself, knowing that I'll just do my own thing. Anyways, I just have 2 chicken breasts in my crock pot. I did grease it. I'm going to add in about 1/2 cup of water. You could do broth if you wanted, but I didn't want to open up a thing of chicken broth just for this. So I'm just using some water. I'm going to be home today, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. I don't know if I need to add more liquid. Obviously, you don't want it to dry out. And then we're going to add in some taco seasoning and ranch seasoning. Now, I do make my own. So I will try to remember to write those out for you if you want to make your own, or you can just use the packets. I'm not quite doing, one packet is usually 3 tablespoons, and I'm not going to quite do that of each just because it seems like that's probably not needed for just 2 chicken breasts. So I'm going to just say, you know, do with it what you feel. And we're going to just put this on on low. It's about 10 to 2. We usually don't eat until like 7. I'm thinking like 5 hours is going to be enough. So we're just going to put it on low and I will check on it.
All right, so here it is a few hours later and it was super tender. I just took my little masher thing here. You could also use forks, but I just shredded it right up in here and it shredded up super, super easy. And then we just cut up some toppings on the side. You could easily do this on nachos as well. We kept ours pretty simple this night as far as our toppings, but you do whatever you want. I think we just did lettuce and tomato, and my husband chopped up a little bit of onion, and we used some sour cream, but you could also do beans and corn, you know, the normal stuff. And we just did ours in some flour tortillas and called it good. I think my husband might have put on some cilantro, and then I like to top mine with this chili lime seasoning from Trader Joe's, but that's obviously just optional, but I love that stuff. This was super good and very easy.
All right, guys, so today we are going to be making a slow cooker Korean beef, and I'm going to start by cutting up my beef. And I like to wear gloves because I don't like handling raw meat. I mean, I don't mind it for like a second, but if it might get like stuck in my fingernails and stuff, that's a no-no. All right, so the recipe did call for flank steak, which I happen to have on hand. I would imagine you could use something else. I don't really know, but you want to cut them into thin pieces. I don't think I want them that long. I'm gonna cut it this way first, I think. That way they're not as long of strips. And then we're just gonna cut it into thin pieces, and I'm going to put it in a Ziploc baggie, and I'll be back with you in just a second. All right, we're gonna go back to the steak in just a second. Right now, we are going to mix up our sauce. I think I might do a little bit more than the recipe calls for, just because usually I like more sauce on these kinds of things, but maybe just have a couple of ingredients. We'll see. I'll tell you what the ingredients, what the recipe calls for. All right, so we're gonna start with a 1/2 cup of beef broth. And a 1/2 cup of soy sauce. I like to use the coconut aminos. That is a good substitute. And this I will probably do a little bit more than that just because I really like it. But we can always add this on to our individual servings as well. Recipe calls for 3/4 cup of brown sugar. I gotta go get more out of the pantry. All right, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. This is toasted sesame oil. I'm sure there's a difference, but I don't think it's gonna make a difference in this recipe. It says 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. I just do scoops of garlic, but I will have the recipe linked down below for you. That was definitely more than 1/2 teaspoon, but that's good with me. Let's see what I'm missing. Okay, now the recipe calls for chopped onion. I just honestly don't feel like chopping any. So I'm gonna use the dried minced onion. I know it's not the same, but it's gonna work. So I don't know, maybe a tablespoon of that. And then a few red pepper flakes. We're just gonna add in, I don't know, 1/4 teaspoon I think is what the recipe calls for. So let's mix this together. All right, we're going to I want to, before I add it to my crock pot, I'm using my smaller crock pot today. I thought I had my cooking spray out, but I don't. Just one moment. Spray down our crock pot. I probably could use my bigger one, my bigger crock pot, but it's in the sink. It's soaked and would probably only take a second to wash it, but I really want to get this going in the crock pot. So we're going to use the smaller one. I think it'll be just fine. So we're going to just pour this in. And then the recipe calls for some cornstarch. I don't have that. I just have flour. So I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't work exactly the same, but I think it's going to work enough. And I'm just going to put some flour in my bag here. The recipe calls for, I think, 1/4 cup of cornstarch. We're going to mix this all together. Okay, now we're just going to add this to the slow cooker. And I'm just going to give this a very, very gentle, slight toss just to make sure all of the meat has some of the sauce on it. All right, so that's how it looks. We are going to cook this on high for either 2 to 3 hours or or low for 4 to 5 hours. We are going to do it on high because it's already pretty late in the day, and we will come back to it later and also make up a couple of sides. All right, we're getting a little bit closer, so I'm gonna go ahead and make some rice. I wasn't sure, I asked my husband if he wanted rice cauliflower or regular rice. He said regular rice tonight, and because I have some more beef broth in a carton that really needs to be used, I'm gonna use that for whatever I've got. It looks like just 1 cup, and I'll do the other cup with water, and that will make our rice a little bit more flavored, but it will also make it darker, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Then I'm also gonna cook up just some frozen broccoli on the side. All right, so it's been about 3 hours for this. I did turn it down to low after a little over 2 hours because I knew it wouldn't need the full 3 hours on high. And our rice, and I just steamed up some broccoli. And here it is, all plated up. I will try and remember to put something on the screen here of what we thought of it, but it looks good and it smells good. I just wanted to hop on real quick. That Korean beef was so good. It's pretty much like a beef and broccoli. I think it's a little bit sweeter than maybe beef and broccoli. What do you think, hon?
Yeah.
A little sweeter than regular beef and broccoli.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, what'd you think?
It was really good. Very, very, very good.
So good. Definitely recommend that. I was kind of impressed with the recipe. So highly recommend that. But I think that's going to be the last recipe for this video. So if you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you have not yet done so already. And make sure your notification bell is turned on so you don't miss my future uploads. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.